few years ago, I wanted to grow my sales team because I was doing all the sales, and I knew if I wanted to scale the company, I would have to build a team of salespeople, and they needed to be good for us to be profitable and hit our financial goals. Now, I was a good salesman by myself. I had done millions of dollars myself in sales, just me, but I did not know how to build a sales team. And when I went looking for information on how to build a sales team, I could not find it anywhere. There was not a lot of resources on how to build a sales team. So I went to the person who at the time was the best that I knew on how to build a sales team, and that was the Wolf of Wall Street. I paid him $15,000 for a weekend at his crib so he can break down to me how he built his sales team back when he was scamming. And not because I wanted to scam. I have a good business, right? But one thing I do know about sales, it's more difficult to sell bullshit than it is to sell good shit. The new iPhone sells itself. I tell you there's an iPhone 16 out right now, you're just gonna buy it, bro, because it's such a good product and they have such a good reputation. He was selling real bullshit and he went to jail for it, but he knew how to build a sales team. And I thought, okay, if I can take those same skills and use them for good, then I'd have tremendous results. So I went to the Wolf. I was at his house and I learned a lot from him on how to build a sales team. And now my sales team has done over $10 million in sales. Earlier this year, I got the plaque from ClickFunnels that shows, when you do over 10 million in sales, and it's ran through their shit. We use the ClickFunnels for the landing pages for people to book calls with our team. Once you've proven that you use one of their funnels in some capacity to sell over $10 million, they give you that plaque. And I got mine. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built my sales team, how I run it. And at the same time, I'll show you 3 of the top things I learned from the Wolf of Wall Street to help me build my 8-figure sales team. Let's get into it. The first thing I learned from the Wolf of Wall Street is the importance of data, or data if you're a pretentious douche. I went in there thinking, man, just how do I get my sales team numbers up? How do I get them their close rate higher? But the whole first day we just talked about data, and you forget that this motherfucker did have $1 billion sales team. You got to know math to do this shit, right? You just think of him as a sales guy, but like he actually had $1 billion operation. And there's a few key data points that we focused on. One was lead flow. When I say lead flow, it's like the economics of leads. Like how many leads are you getting a day? What's your closing percentage? How much is a lead worth to you? Because when you're running a sales team, for your sales team to be effective and profitable, the whole game is cost per lead versus lead value. What do I mean by that? Well, lead value is how much a lead is worth, and cost per lead is how much it costs you to acquire the lead. And so it's not the cost of acquisition, it's the cost of actually getting the lead. And we can see the cost per lead in the different ad managers, the Google Ad Manager, the Meta Ad Manager. You can actually see how much the leads cost. And you get the lead value. All you have to do is divide your total number of sales by the total number of leads, and that's how much a lead is worth. We went back and got super serious about tracking. And I know it's a recurring theme on my channel, is the importance of tracking, but we got super into it after we talked to the Wolf. So this is our old tracking sheets. We have a way new one that we started this year that's way more detailed, but I'm using this one because I don't want you to see exactly how much the salespeople made. We track everything now. So for this month of June of this year, total revenue, commissionable revenue, right? This is like money that came into the company that we're going to pay commission on, right? Not all revenue is commissionable, right? I don't want to get into that, but because it's a sales team, this is what counts for them. Is $618,000. That's how much we came in, and this is how much commission we paid. That's to our sales team. Now this is contracted revenue. This is how much is contracted with people's payment plans and stuff. But now we can see how many leads we have, and we can see how much money we had. In our new sheets, this just shows up, but I'm just going to show it to you now. So boom, we can see how much is a lead worth. So we can just plug in the income for this month, divide that by the amount of leads we had. These are the calls that were booked. Each lead is worth over $1,700. $1,700. That's the lead value. And then the cost per lead, I'm not going to open up my ads manager and this shit, but we actually try to keep it under 10. As you can see, if you're doing this right, it becomes profitable. But why is this profitable? Once we know this number, then we got to think, why is this profitable? And then from that, you got to go to like the closing rate. If we go here, these are the closing rates. These are calls completed, right? So not everybody completed. You know, there's no shows, reschedules, shit of that nature. So we want to keep the no-show rate down. This is a little high for this month. So I like to keep it under 10%. Ignore this right now, but we'll just go to close rates. Out of the sales calls they took, they closed almost 60%. And I'll talk about how to get that up. But you got to start working with this data to get this number up. Because if that number starts to fall, so does this lead value number start to fall. And then if this stays the same, then it's less profitable. So we want this number up and we want this number down. We don't love this, right? Because there were so many reschedules and or no shows that even though the close rate of calls they actually took was 60%, the close rate of total calls is only 28. So we want to get that up as high as possible because that's going to affect the lead value. We just got super crazy about data. This is what we're doing up until like a few months ago. The tracking we're doing now is way crazier than this. Like we're tracking everything and we're breaking it down by platform. At the time, this helped us get to 10 mil. Once you got the lead flow, the next thing is the close rates. You want to make sure you improve the close rates, but the close rates also have to do with not only just how much they're closing of the calls they took, we also got to keep the no-show rate down so people actually show up, and the reschedules. We're always working on it. 15% is not fucking awful. Like motherfuckers ain't getting fired for that shit, but I like to keep it under 10, you know? But there's like close rates the calls took, but then also total close rate. As you can see for this month, negative 23%. And then once you have that, then you need retention. You got to keep the clients on so you make more money. Because look, when you look at this, this is how much was collected, but this is how much was contracted. Meaning if they stay with us throughout the whole term of the agreement, like that's how much money we'll get from those people. But you know, that's a big difference. $200,000 is $200,000. We have to make sure that this happens. And there's a few ways to do that. So the way I look at business, because I started off in sales, I think of business, at least the businesses I run, is that the sales team is the nucleus of the business. And then you have the marketing team, and then you also have customer service. But I look at it as everybody works for the sales team, and the sales team is the nucleus. So the marketing team's job is to bring the leads in. I don't want my sales guys getting their own leads. I know some organizations, you got to do that shit. That's not what I wanted to run. My leads come to the sales people, and that puts them in what? A better position. They have more status. Our marketing team, its job is to get the leads, but also make sales easy. If you've ever been in any organization where there's a marketing team and a sales team, sometimes they become combative. So if things aren't going right, the marketing team will blame the sales team. They're just not closing. Or the sales team will blame the marketing team. And they'll say shit like, oh, they're giving us bad leads or blah, 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 blah. They'll always try to pass the buck. Because I'm proficient in marketing and in sales, I know that both of them are full of shit. However, I will tell the marketing team, hey, if they're not closing, you need to focus on making it fucking easier for them. But I'll still yell at the sales team too. Make no mistake. Everybody gonna get the smoke. But in my organization, the marketing team's job is to make the sales easier. And we do that by having better marketing. Like if the marketing is good enough, the sales should be easy. If you need superstar salespeople for your organization to run, then you have a marketing problem. But then there's also the customer service team. Customer service team is actually help the clients, make sure they get everything they need, and to retain them. Because if they retain them, what happens? Everybody makes more money. If the clients are happy and they're staying with it and they're happy to stay with them, that's the thing. You want to help them so much that they're happy to stay. You get what I'm saying? Like if they couldn't stay, they get upset. That's what I tell my, customer service team or my customer success team, right? They need to be so fucking thrilled and so happy that they are delighted to stay, and they'd be pissed if they couldn't. That's the job. And if you do that, you collect more revenue and everybody makes more money. The whole team makes more money. Because if it's easier for the sales team and they make more sales, then the marketing team's ads are more profitable and they look like fucking geniuses. Sometimes the people who run my ads, you know, those teams, they'll be like, man, we got this much return on ad spend and it's fucking amazing. And I'm like, don't start fucking sucking your own dicks just yet, motherfucker. Like, it's just you need to thank the sales team because they fucking closed that shit. You know what I'm saying? They closed them leads, and bro, without them, it's nothing. And the same thing the sales team too, where it's like, hey man, don't get on your fucking high horse, asshole. You go, the marketing team made that shit easier for you. And then if they're getting like a lot of retention, hey man, the fucking customer service team, you need to thank these motherfuckers. And then here's the thing, then you start getting testimonials. You use the testimonials as marketing, and it all goes full circle, baby. You know what I'm saying? It all comes full circles. Because the better they do, that means the more testimonials we're gonna get. And then we use the testimonials in marketing. That makes it easier to sell. So it's a beautiful ecosystem. It's a beautiful ecosystem. We talked about this shit the whole first day. We didn't talk about scripts, sales tactics. Me and the Wolf talked about this shit the whole first day. So you need to start thinking about this in your organization. It's not just the sales team needs to close better. Yeah, they do. We're going to talk about that. But is the marketing team making it easy for them to sell? And is your client success team or your customer service team making sure that the customers are delighted, ranting and raving, giving you positive reviews, eagerly giving you testimonials because they're so happy? Because all that affects your sales. The business is like an organism. The sales team may be the heart. You ain't got a liver, you still die. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got kidneys, you still die. It all works together and everything has to be running effectively. Next thing I learned from the Wolf was the importance of scripts. Now, I knew scripts were important, but I started taking it a lot more seriously after meeting with the Wolf. If you ever watched that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, he was getting fucking assholes off the street and shit and meeting motherfuckers in diners, and they was working for him in sales, and they were able to sell just as good as him because they had what? The script. The first thing you need to do is make sure you got a rock solid script for your team and make sure they're following. They can make adjustments and everything. You're like the offensive coordinator on a football team, but the quarterback can go out there and make audibles, you know, if the defense gives them something different. I know all you foreigners won't know what the fuck I just said, man. And I don't know how to explain it in the soccer terms. And don't get mad at me because I said soccer. That's an English word. That word comes from Europe. Look it up and then apologize to me. So they need a script. But just because you give a motherfucker a script doesn't mean that he's got it, right? You can buy a Paula Deen cookbook, but that don't mean you're gonna be able to make racist pancakes as good as her. So you also have to have training. You have to train your sales team. And we're gonna talk about how to do that. And here's something that the Wolf didn't teach me, but this is something that I noticed. With your sales team, you have to kind of give life coaching. And we're gonna talk about why, because sales is a mental game. And if they fall off mentally, their whole shit is gonna fall off. You know what I'm saying? So you have to actually like life coach them, make them better human beings, more effective human beings. If they have a fucking family problem, you gotta coach them through that. If they have a relationship problem, you gotta coach them through that. You can't let their lives get haywire. And I'm gonna talk about how I do that in my organization. So first you have the script. Now, the script has to be, how do I put it? I'll talk about the way I do my scripts. So my scripts, it's like the no pressure sales script. If you're in HTT, I actually give that to you, the no pressure sales script in my high ticket training program. But the way I wrote my script, and I write every script I ever write like this, is more about asking questions. And Jordan does say the same thing, ask questions. A lot of the TikTok sales advice or the YouTube short sales advice, shit sounds like a date rape. Like they're trying to like straight up strong arm these people into buying, and they're trying to finesse and talk them into buying. And I'm not saying that can't work, but that's like some 80s style sales tactics. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, and I'm not saying those people who teach that have money. It's just I don't like to sell like that. The way I like to sell, you don't try to convince them of anything. You ask them questions to convince themselves. And I have a video where I kind of break down the details of that. And we'll post that somewhere around here because it's beyond the scope of what I can go into now. But it's a more convincing way to sell. Even though you're not trying to convince them, if they convince themselves, they can't really argue with themselves. And you won't get any pushback because you're not being pushy. You only get pushback if you're pushy. So you should just be asking questions about them, their problems, what they want to accomplish, how they think they can do it. And it takes the pressure off of you as a salesperson. Because if you got to come up with witty shit, you know, all the time, you got to come up with wacky shit to say or memorize wacky lines. Now the pressure's on you. I want no pressure on the salesperson, and I want no pressure on the prospect. There's no pressure on you, the salesperson, if you're just asking questions. And there's no pressure on the prospect either, because you're asking questions about them. And what's everybody's favorite topic? Themselves. They actually like it. They enjoy the process. What I like to hear when I listen to recordings of my sales calls, I like to hear the prospect say, man, yo, I never thought about it like that, man. This has been real helpful. Thank you. And the motherfucker probably hasn't really even given him any advice. He just asked him questions that made him think about things in a way maybe he hadn't seen them before. So you got to write a script like that. And I have videos on how I write scripts like that. But then there's training. So what we do is every day we drill with the sales team. I was running it for a long time. Then I hired an outside guy to do it. And now Brian, you know, he's the head of the sales team. He's running it, my boy Brian. We have trainings in the morning with the sales team, 6 days a week. So we do drills. We cover how to handle objections. I do want them to be good at handling objections. But the best salespeople don't get objections because the person convinced themselves before you even made the offer. So if you're even getting a bunch of objections, I'm kind of like, oh, what the fuck is going on? So what we do is, even on my tracking sheet, we talk about tracking, we track the objections. There's only 3 types of objections. There's time, I don't have time, time's not the right time, blah, blah, blah. I need to think about it as a time objection as well. Basically, they want to put it off. There's a financial objection. I ain't got the money, blah, blah, blah. Financial is I ain't got the fucking bread. I would do it, but I ain't got the bread. That's a financial objection. They could say it's too much money, but if you've done a good job, they won't say that. They just say they ain't got it. Then there's a third party objection. This is I need to talk to my wife, spouse, Jesus, Buddha, you know what I'm saying? Fucking Poseidon, whatever, whoever you pray to. But we always want it to be more lay downs. That's not an objection. That's like, okay, man, you get made the offer and then you got it. So out of the calls closed, the bulk of them were laydowns, and that's what I want. If you get objections, I want you to handle them, but I'd rather they be laydowns because you did so well with the script. And then where it could all fuck up is life coaching. You can do everything right, but then something happens in your sales team's life that fucks up their close rate. Because sales is a mental game. It's all mental. You got to keep your wits about you. You got to be calm, even if they're not calm, because you know they might be nervous, especially if they're spending a lot of money. It's nerve-wracking spending a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to control your state so you can control their state. And it's difficult to control your state because states are contagious. There's something called mirror neurons, and these mirror neurons are the reason people like pornography so much, right? Because when you see somebody feeling a certain way, you start to feel it. Or if you see somebody crying, if you watch a sad fucking film, you see that person crying, you're gonna feel that shit a little bit, you know? And if somebody's nervous or antsy, you may get nervous or antsy if you're not cognizant of this and you don't like stay firm. And you gotta stay firm so they mirror your neutrons. You gotta stay calm, cool. But if your life is fucked up, it makes it different. You have too much on your mind. So I take this to another level. We track shit in their life. So we track how much each salesperson sleeps. All of us are wearing some sort of fitness tracker. I want to make sure they're getting enough sleep. The average is, you know, they're getting 6 hours sleep. They're young guys, right? They meditate. They got to meditate every day. We're at 90%, right? We track their mood every day. So they got to fill out a sheet. We track their mood. If they hit their macros, there's a few of them who was fucking up that week. If they took their supplements, the fucking easy part. Yeah, they crushed that. Taking pills and shakes, and then and if they worked out, and we track that. And what we notice is before their close rates fall, these numbers will fall, particularly the sleep, meditation, mood, all of them. You know, if any of these fall, that's a sign to me that I need to like pull one of them aside and start talking to them. Hey, what's going on? And let's fix it. If there's a problem in their life, then I sit there and help them come up with a game plan if I can, because I'm not letting your bullshit fuck with my money. Now, most of the time, it's guess what? Some bitch, right? You know what I'm saying? It's their girlfriend or their wife. You know how these motherfuckers are, man. These people are crazy. So we got to sit down and come up with a game plan to make this bitch happy so she stops fucking up his close rate, because that's fucking with my money. And I ain't gonna let that happen. 80% of the time it's some bitch. Sometimes it's some other shit. You know, if they have too much going on in their lives. Every time one of them is fucking moving, the close rates drop because moving is stressful. I'm the only person I know who does this with their sales team. This is just a branding thing, tracking these metrics. But I'm also the only person I know whose sales team is closing at 60%. I showed this shit once to one of my friends. He has a business where he puts salespeople with different businesses. He'll find you a closer. And I was showing him this, and he just wasn't trying to believe. No way, I don't believe it's not true. I'm like, motherfucker, do you track the shit I track? Are you fucking doing this shit? Are you training with your people every morning? Are you fucking taking charge of their whole fucking life and tracking all these metrics? Then shut the fuck up, white boy, and just say thank you for me giving you the game. Now, the third thing that I learned from Jordan, this was just a thing for me. This was just me. I talked to him about my story. I talked to him about how I was a fucking kid from Chicago, South Side, Poe, from the black ghetto. You know what I'm saying? And I had dreams of being successful, reaching the mountaintop of what I thought was success. Right? And he said, Brandon, you're making a few million every year, but you come from the fucking South Side of Chicago. So you think that you're at the top of the mountain, or at least it's all perspective. You think you're fucking crushing it. However, he said, I really remember this. This was probably the most impactful thing he said to me. He said, you're a victim of your own success. Like, you're not even thinking big enough. Like, that mountain is cool in comparison to where you came from, but there's way bigger mountains for you to climb. You know what I'm saying? Like, you at the top at the first level, you need to be thinking way bigger than you're thinking now. And it just kind of opened up my eyes that, oh man, there's way more out here. There's way more that I could do. You know, you come from the South Side of Chicago, you start making a few $1 million after your dad blows his brains out. You know what I'm saying? You start fucking making shit happen. You might start feeling like you made it. But he said, nah, you got to think way bigger than this. And that kind of opened up my eyes. You know, like, I just started really shooting different. And you can see the difference. This was 2020. You see 2023, I'm balling like significantly harder than I was in 2020. And it was all by design. You know, my vision became bigger, like what I can do, what I can accomplish. And he was like, man, with your talent and what you've been able to do with this, you should be able to like make way more. And I'm not at the top of this mountain yet. And then when I get to this mountain, I'm sure I'll see new ones. You know what I'm saying? And I might have got a little complacent right here. And this shit happens sometimes when you're like one of your most successful friends. Then I made some other friends who were more successful. And next thing you know, I'm fucking doing videos with Grant Cardone and shit. You know what I'm saying? And some of my other friends that became way successful at the time. Like, you know, I've been friends with the Tate brothers for mad long. And, you know, they over the last few years, man, they've grown a lot. You also don't want to get lapped by your friends and shit. You know, like, at least not all crazy. And it just expanded my horizon. But that was the one thing he said, your victim is success. So I urge you guys, however successful you think you are, like, just start aiming way bigger, like overshoot that shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, you got a lot more runway to run. And if you want to know more specifically about how I teach sales, I have a whole video on sales where I break down the script and I break down some of these numbers in more detail in another video. You should check that out now.